Welcome to the Building Dots podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have Somya with us. She's the founder of Modern Nomads, a travel company that redefines the life of adventure. Modern Nomads goes far beyond simply curating trips, and we'll dive into what sets it apart in just a bit. But before that, Somya has been traveling for over 3 years, if I'm not wrong, inspiring countless others, including me, to embrace solo travel. So thank you so much for Soumya to join me today.
Thank you for having me, Siddhant.
Yeah, so let's start with the podcast. So one thing that I am most intrigued to know is that leaving the security of a corporate job after nearly working for 5 years, especially when when you get accustomed to a steady paycheck, takes a lot of courage to make such a bold decision. So what motivated you to take this leap and pursue a life of travel? Like, can you walk us through the through your journey, how you found the courage to quit, whether you had a plan in place or what were your initial steps after you left the job?
So actually, quitting my job was inspired by traveling. So I
Okay.
started traveling around 4 years ago, and it happened because of COVID. So I was in Dehradun when COVID lockdown happened. Dehradun is where my family lives, and now also
Okay.
it's my base now. So yeah, I was here for a long time, and it was really boring because COVID was obviously boring for everyone. And I saw on Instagram that there were some people who were, working remotely from mountains or different places. At that time, I had no concept of travel. Like, I had no idea what traveling is, or, I had just not experienced it at all. And my idea of fun was like, this was when I had only been working for around 1 year. So the idea of
Okay.
fun was, after office, we would go out, get some drinks, and on weekends, we'll go for some parties. And that was my
The
idea of,
usual thing that everyone goes for.
yeah. So it was like office and then parties and, yeah, going to fancy cafes, restaurants, pubs. That was my idea of fun. But
This
then
wasn't Dehradun.
this was in Pune. So
Okay.
Pune and Bangalore. So I worked in
Okay.
Bangalore for 6 months, and then I worked in Pune for around 7, 8 months, and then
Okay.
lockdown happened.
Okay.
So yeah, during lockdown, all these things were closed, and I saw people traveling. Even reels was not a thing back then. So I think I must have seen some, like, just photos of people doing that. And so I thought that, okay, I am really bored in life. I want to get out, I want to do something. And I took a trip to Goa. So it was my first ever solo trip, and I was scared, obviously, because I was going there by myself. I had no idea what to expect. So I booked a one-way ticket, and my plan was that if I don't like it, I'll just take a ticket back home and come back. Like, I thought
Hmm.
maybe I'll just come back in 2 days or whatever. But anyway, that trip ended up to be for a month in Goa.
Okay.
Yeah. So Goa actually inspired me to uh, to travel. When I was there, I saw so many people doing these alternate careers, and this was like 4 years ago. Now I think alternate careers are very. I mean, you see a lot of people doing it on social media, like because of reels. There's so much
Hmm.
awareness there. I see so many people who are in their early 20s and they're volunteering at different hostels.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just see people, yeah, they're so young and they're doing all these different things. And it's amazing because back then we just, I mean, it was only 4 years, but still the idea was that,
COVID changed a lot of things, I would say. Like,
yeah. So 4 years ago, I met all these people doing different careers, and that was eye-opening. But at that time, I did not have any skill to pursue something like that. I didn't have any ideas. I didn't know what I
okay.
could do. Um, But yeah, since then I've had this thought that, I want to work in travel space, because that trip completely changed my life. And yeah, I just thought I would do something. So I worked for another for 4 more years. I saved money, and I just had to have enough savings to quit my job.
So after the Goa trip, you worked for another 4 years, and after that, you left your job.
Yes,
So,
around three and a
but
half. Yeah.
on the side, you were traveling as well. Like, since I'm assuming it was COVID, so it would be work from home. So, were you traveling on the side with your job, or?
Yes. So, I came back home from Goa. I lived at home for a month, and it was winters here in
Wo-
Dehradun. So it was cold. Life was very dull. And so, in February, I went back to Goa again for a month, because I just had to like do it. And so then after that, what I started doing was I would come live at home for a few months and then travel for a few months. So that way it was a good balance of also saving money, because I
Hmm.
was not paying any rent. I was
Yeah.
getting the same salary that I was getting in Pune. So that also helped me save during that time. And yeah, so saving
So
also travel.
eventually, when you had that financial stability for a few months or a year or so, then you decided that I want to leave my job.
Yeah.
So awesome. The irony that COVID restricted people to travel, but it was a boon for, like, it was beneficial for some who had work from home. And then eventually, when things started opening up, but work from home still existed. So it benefited a lot of us who wanted to travel. So great. So I recently did a solo trek after contemplating a lot, which was a Buran Ghati trek. I was not sure if I wanted to do a solo trek or not, but it was one of the best decisions of my life. I recently completed that trek in June.
Wow.
However, like many people hesitate to solo travel due to fear and uncertainty. So, like, can you share some moments from your early travels when you had to confront these emotions? And did you experience something of this sort and eventually you gained confidence as a solo traveler?
um I mean, there are a lot of, and even till now, whenever I'm going on a trip, it feels sort of, a few days before the trip, I'm contemplating, oh my God, should I go or should I not go? Should I just cancel my flight? And I get very overwhelming emotions. And this is after 4 years of traveling, but I still get these things. But I think once you are there,
Hmm.
initially it's a little weird, because you're in a new environment around new people, everything is different. But then eventually you set in, like, the second day gets better, you start meeting people, you start
Yeah.
interacting with people, and somehow things start falling in place, and then you just feel like I'm not ready to leave, because then it kind of becomes your comfort zone. So you first step out of your comfort zone to go to a new place, and then that place becomes your comfort zone.
So yeah, exactly same thing happened with me. Like I went, there were 25 people, I knew none of them. Then eventually, first day I tried to interact with a few. Then second day there are some activities. Then you gel up with some, and eventually at the end of the trek, I knew all of them, and it felt like I know them since like so many years. Especially during a trek when you are not connected to the outside world, it feels good to just interact with new people and make new friends. So glad to know your experience with the solo travel. And finally, let's dive into your current journey. So after traveling solo for so many years, you decided to start something of your own. So what is non Modern Nomads all about, and what inspired you to start, and how was your journey? How has your journey evolved since the inception?
um so I started traveling. My first exposure to traveling, I would say, was solo traveling, where you go, you live in like a hostel like kind of a setting, you
Hmm.
meet different people, and everyone's traveling by themselves. And I think that makes you discover yourself, because
Hmm.
if you don't know anyone around you, no one has any expectations of you. Because let's say when you're living with your friends, or when you're around your friends, they've known that okay, this person is like this, and you always act in that way.
The
And
way they expect us to be.
yeah, and the way they have known you to be.
Yeah.
And um, you are also like, even when if you're living with family, there are certain expectations how you should be and stuff. But when you're traveling solo, you are, you can be anything. You can be yourself, you can be
Yeah.
truly yourself. And I think that's a beautiful feeling. So the way the traditional travel companies they operate is that they would book like a bus or something, and they would take you to like five different places, and usually people join in groups. So mostly
Hmm.
families join those trips, and you stay in nice places, you do all those bucket list
Activity.
fancy items,
Yeah.
but you don't really experience travel the way it should be experienced, right? So if you take the example of, let's say, Rishikesh, so mostly when people go to Rishikesh, they go for like a 3-day trip, and then they
So
go
yeah.
to they do rafting one day, and then there are certain spots that they need to visit. So you do that, and then your Rishikesh trip is over. But Rishikesh, ideally, is the yoga capital of the world. So people from around the world, they come to Rishikesh to learn yoga. Like if you
Okay.
actually live in Rishikesh, you would see that there are so many people who are living there for months doing their yoga teacher training courses. So many people from the western parts of the world, especially, they come, they live here for a few months, and then they also start teaching yoga. So I mean,
Okay.
that is the essence of Rishikesh, right? It's a very spiritual place, but people
Hmm.
uh, don't explore that side of Rishikesh. And I think if you're going there for 2 or 3 days, you cannot explore that side of Rishikesh. So a traditional tour company would do these basic things, but then the way I design trips for the modern nomads is the way I have experienced that place. Right. So for Rishikesh, it would be like a longer trip, maybe like 4 5 days, but then also I'll give them a taste of, how it actually feels to be in Rishikesh. Like, why people get hooked to Rishikesh.
So
So,
apart from the normal, usual things that the people do, you tend to, I would say, go to more unexplored places in the area or unexplored activities and things or cultures from
yeah.
that particular area. And okay, so that's how you plan your trips at Modern Nomads
Yes. So, you know, when we live in cities, we don't get to experience a lot of things. Like there are certain meditation tools like this breath work. So breath work is something that I discovered in Goa. By the way, Goa also has a very a big yoga community. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I was very skeptical, like, what is meditation? It's just stupid and whatever. I tried breathwork, and it was a really interesting feeling. Like, you can really relax. So
Hmm.
when I plan these trips, I try to give people a taste of it. And then if it's something that, they want to explore further, they can. But I like to introduce people to different things. And also we do touristy things, like basic things that you need to do in a certain place. So I think
Like the
that's the
Lakshman
idea.
Jhula and the river rafting and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So is it like a bunch of solo travelers or there are groups and solo travelers combined in your trips that you usually plan?
It's mostly solo travelers. 90% of the people that come are solo travelers, but then sometimes they're also uh,
Groups.
friends or couples. So like a group, like just like 2 3 friends, and sometimes couples also.
Okay. So like when we travel with friends, there's a lot of discussion and debate on the group chat about which hotel to book, which places to go, and there's a lot of discussion that goes on for months before planning a trip. And since you plan a trip for so many people or groups, I would say, how do you like juggle numerous factors like safety, hospitality, travel logistics, food, and adventure activities? How do you manage all these things? What have been some of the biggest challenges while planning this trip, if there has been any?
So the logistics part is not easy, and especially when you have to do it for so many people, right?
Yeah.
Because people have different, everyone will have different sort of expectations. But the way I plan is I only plan trips to places that I'm really familiar with.
Okay.
So I have contacts there, and I collaborate with different like for my trip to Spiti Valley, which was in July, a few
Okay.
months ago. So I had collaborated with Anuj from the Life Outdoors, and he's been doing these trips since 2017. So he had
Oh,
a very solid network of transportation,
locals.
hotels, and everything. So that way, I collaborate with people, and um if when I know the place really well, then I just manage everything on my own. Also, I spend a lot of time in deciding where to stay. So for my Goa trip, which was the last trip that I did in August, I stayed at, I think, five different places before finally deciding where everyone is going to stay, because
So this was your trip, not the Modern Nomads trip. You went to Goa to explore the hotels and everything, and for deciding where would you take the group or everyone to stay.
no, so I've been going to Goa for around 4 years now, and I've lived there for around 6, 7 months. But I've
Hmm.
never been there during monsoon. So monsoon
Okay.
is sort of off season, and I know which places are good to stay. But then when it's off season, and travel is
Hmm.
very dynamic, right? So what
Yeah.
they do during off season is that they would cut out on their staff, they would cut out on their services, and the quality of rooms will not be that good because it's raining all the time. So there's also this feeling of what do you call it, I think you would have it in Bombay as well, right? Like it just feels a little different, like
Yeah,
monsoon.
during monsoon.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that thing, it doesn't, and then there are insects because like there's so much nature
Yeah.
there. So
So,
all
so
those
you
things.
need to pre-plan the things before, especially for monsoon, that which places you need to go and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like since it was my first time there in monsoon, I went 3 weeks before the trip had started, before the trip was supposed to start. And in those 3 weeks, I spent first week staying at different places and checking what is good where, because a lot of places had they had shut down their kitchen because they
Hmm.
can't afford to keep a full-time chef because it's off
Hmm.
season.
Yeah.
So things like that, they really matter, because if you've come on a trip, you are on a it was a vacation trip, people would expect to at least get breakfast at the property, because it becomes difficult. So yeah, all those things.
So I love the fact that you have put in so much efforts and details behind organizing a trip, especially like you said you went there weeks before because it was monsoon, so there might be other things that might affect their experience. So you personally went there to stay at different places. So I think it's a really good thing, and I like that thing. So yeah, and so modern nomads is not just about creating a community of like-minded adventurers. How do you foster a sense of belonging and connection among travelers, especially in era where everyone is digitally connected and everyone is just on the internet every time, and there's not much of interaction physically apart from the digital world. So when they come on the trip, how is like, is there any ice breaking session? How do people gel up and
I do plan some ice-breaking activities, but I believe that most people who come on these trips, they come with a mindset that they want to unwind, they want to meet new people, and they want to have a good time basically. Because people are not, people are taking, let's say, maybe 2 or 3 vacations in a year, and
Hmm.
they want to like make the most out of it. And I think when people are connected digitally, they crave for a, maybe they crave for like a like a physical, like a in-person connection thingy. So yeah, people come with that mindset, and people get along really well. Like till now, all the trips I've had, people have gotten along well. I mean, people have also taken trips together without me.
Okay, so when they met on your trip that you organized, and then they
Became
separately
friends.
also went, and
Yeah,
they separately went for other trips as well. Okay,
yeah.
that's great. So I guess people come with that thought only of a digital detox and to connect with new people, to explore something new. So
Yeah,
it makes it easier for you as well as them to connect with others. And when there are others also with the same thought, so it becomes easier.
yeah.
So,
And
oh,
most people, they say that my friends back home are very different, and here I'm meeting people who are interested in all those adventure things. And uh, I mean, although they love their friends, everyone loves their friends. Even my friends here in Dehradun, they I mean, I can't plan trips with them. They wouldn't go. So it's good when I'm here, I'm hanging out with them, and I really love them. But then I also have this other life that I really like, and like basically exploring, seeing new things. And not everyone is interested to do that, I guess, or maybe not everyone wants to do that. So I would just rather do it with other people who are interested in that.
I get it. So I completely get that point. So when you are traveling, you are planning a certain kind of a trip, let's say Goa or something which is related to surfing, and also people who are into surfing or who are excited or want to learn surfing come. So it's a group of like-minded people, and they say, ki, oh, okay, you also like surfing. My friends don't like surfing. So that's how even I went for a trek. So none of my friends were interested for a trek for a fact that they were going to Goa and I didn't want to go. I wanted to go for a trek. So I planned a trek, and then I met like-minded people, because eventually everyone who comes for a trek would definitely love a trek.
Yeah,
So that's how I feel, yeah, that's how it becomes easier in such trips to connect with people.
yeah.
So yeah, and one of the questions that I personally wanted to know, that how many places have you explored in India so far, and what has been one of like any of your favorite destination, or are there any top three places on the top of your mind that you would recommend, like a must visit spots in the country?
So, to be honest, I've not been to a lot of places because the way I travel is I travel slow. So, earlier this year, I went to
Hmm.
Varkala. So, my plan
Hmm.
was to be in Kerala for around 3 weeks. I think I had 3 weeks. And somehow I ended up staying in Varkala for that time. And then I spent 2.5 months in Varkala. So, if you say the number of places, right? Like, so I mean, for me, it's more about slow traveling. Um, I've lived in Goa for a long time. I've lived in Himachal for a really long time. But yeah, I've explored Rajasthan, Spiti Valley, some places in Uttarakhand, Kerala, Goa. What else? I've been to Pondicherry also. I've been to Coorg, Mysore. Um,
So
yeah.
most of the places in north and south, you have covered much of them,
Yeah, I've
and
not
you
been.
also,
Mhm.
yeah.
I've not been to Northeast yet, but I would really recommend. Um, I think Goa is one place that is suitable for everyone. Like if you are into partying, you can go to Goa.
Okay.
If you like quiet and just beautiful scenic places, then you can go to South Goa. And there's also water sports there. So if you are into that, then also plus Goa has all types of music scene. Like you would find Bollywood, you would find techno, psytrance, and you'll also find, like rock music nights. So you'll also find reggae. So that way it caters to everyone. And other than that, I would really recommend small villages in Himachal. So there are these places where you can't reach by road. You can go
Yeah.
by road until a certain point, and then you have to hike and reach the village. So I really love those sort of places because it just feels like, the crowd there is very filtered. So
Yeah.
Kalga village is one such place. It's
Kalga
very
village.
me.
Is it before Spiti Valley or something? Kalga village?
So it's after Kasol. It's around two
Okay.
hours from Kasol.
Kalga.
And then there's another village called Grehen.
Okay.
So when I first went to Grehen, there was no network there, and I think there was no internet also there. There was this just one place where they had put optic fiber and they had Wi-Fi somehow. But it was such a crazy experience because we would just go to that particular place for like an hour or so every day just to connect our internet, use the internet. But then we were living without internet for a week, and it was beautiful.
So
Now they
what do you do rest of the day in like a village? Is there any like, I'm assuming there would be any activity or anything sort of that in the village. So like what do you do? Like I get it that there is a lot of peace. I have been for the trek. My trek started from Roru village, so I loved the village. But after a point, like is there anything to do or what? Or usually just people go to just stay by themselves and
um, I so I'm personally someone who can stay by myself, but not for a
okay.
long period of time. Like I think half a day is good enough. Then I sort of crave some social interaction. But for this village, I've gone with another friend, and I met her also during while traveling, basically. So both of us went there, and we met some other people there. So we were all hanging out, and we would just go to we would hike to a nice place. We'd go to different waterfalls, take our speaker, chill there. It's nice to be in nature.
Yeah, it is definitely nice
Yeah.
to be in nature. There's a lot of peace, I would say.
We would also get lost because there were no, I mean, it was like so empty, and then we were going to this waterfall, and then we took a different turn, and we don't even know how we couldn't even call anyone, and we'd also do that. So it was fun. On one of the nights, we ended up, there was a meteor shower.
Oh,
Yeah, and now this village, right, where there's no electricity, it's all solar, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's no
hmm.
network, and it just goes really dark at night. And we're sitting in the
Um,
balcony and we're looking outside, and we saw, oh my God, it was amazing.
I haven't experienced. So the craziest, or I would say the best experience I would say I have had in such cases is I have observed a Milky Way during my trek.
Oh wow,
Not so at 3:30 a.m. at night. So
wow.
that was the best thing. I haven't experienced anything like that, but I'm willing to or I'm hoping to have such experiences in future.
So you,
So that was one of the things that I especially remember from the trek because at 3:30 a.m. when it's so cold, you come out of your tent and you just see the Milky Way. So it's something else that I cannot describe.
yeah, and these feelings, right, when you see something like this for the first time, it's just a very different feeling. It's hard to explain, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that keeps me hooked to traveling, because I go to a new place, and even though it might be just another beach, It's just very different. Like Varkala was like, although I've lived in Goa a lot, but now this year when I was in Varkala, it was just so beautiful, man. Like the sunsets there are very, very different. And then the whole surfing culture, it was
Hmm.
amazing. I would wake up every day in the early morning, and I had
Oh.
this whole routine. I would go surf, and then I would do other things. But my body clock had reset to waking up at 5 a.m. by itself. It's just amazing.
Surfing is definitely on my bucket list. So earlier I was planning to go to Mulki, but eventually things didn't turn up. But yeah, surfing is something I want to do since like 1 or 2 years. And as you mentioned that you went to Varkala, so you have volunteered at a surf school in Varkala as well, right? So it sounds fascinating from the outside that you get to volunteer and stay there. I'm assuming without paying anything or for free, and also you don't get paid for the work. But like, how was your experience? Like, what are some of the like what has your experience been, and what is like a typical day look like a volunteer?
So, this was my first time volunteering, the only time I've volunteered basically.
Hmm.
And people have different kinds of experiences. There are people who volunteer in hostels, and they only spend like a few hours of their day working. For
Hmm.
me, it was a little different because I think you can, volunteering is like working in a startup.
Okay.
So if you are motivated enough, you would really put in a lot of work, and you'll get to wear a lot of different hats. uh, that is one thing. My typical day was waking up, then waking up early,
Hmm.
uh, coordinating the operations of the surfing lesson. So,
Okay.
and then I would also get to surf. So my whole thing was that I got free surfing lessons and free stay and also free food. And I also got a little bit of stipend. It was 10,000 per month.
That is something
It sounds like
incredible.
a very good deal, but it
Yeah.
was very exhausting for me because the kind of work it's a very labor intensive work. Because I mean, I have only worked a regular job before, right? So it's like you sit on a computer and you're just mentally
Hmm.
exhausted. But
Yeah.
with this, you're also physically exhausted, and you have to, it's also hot there. So we would wake up early. There was this other volunteer with me, and then we would go pick up people and then go to the surfing beach, and we would also surf. So now we are also surfing, so we are also exhausted. And then
Exhausted.
we had to go back and keep the boards back to the store. So, and
Hmm.
then come back home, rest, get food, rest for a while, and then I had to be sit at the shop. So there was a surfing shop. So basically, people would it's on the Varkala cliff. So Varkala is like, there's a north cliff,
Hmm.
which is where all the touristic things happen. So the cliff has stores and restaurants and cafes. So people are just walking on the cliff all the time because on one side of the cliff there is this ocean which is really beautiful, and on the
I
other
have
side,
seen that in the photos.
yeah, and on the other side is the shop. So people walking by, they would just come inside the shop to inquire about the surfing lessons, and then we would take their bookings for the next day. And yeah, so I had to sit at the shop for 4 hours per day, around that much, and coordinate operations in the morning. So I would say it was like a 8 hour per day job.
8 hour per day job. So it's like a operation heavy job where you
Yeah.
need to wake up, you need to do all the grunt work of coordination, logistics, and everything. But are there all the volunteering activities like this physically intensive, or aren't there any social media community manager type of volunteer where you don't need to do all this and you get to stay as well. Is there anything such like that?
So, in a lot of hostels, they have this social media opportunity, so they would give you free stay and free food, and you are expected to only record things and then make reels and videos and post about it on social media, and maybe organize some small events. So they are not labor intensive, but then the perks are also less. So
Less.
the main reason why I took this up was because surfing is an expensive sport, and
Yeah.
I wanted to pursue it for a longer duration. Like, when I went there by myself, I think I must have spent 35% of my
Mhm.
expenses
Which
was surfing.
which company or surf school is this? Indica or India?
No, so
Which?
this is Indica is in Mulki, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I have searched for movies. I don't know about movies.
Yeah, this was Elixir Surf School.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so you learned surfing. The main motive for volunteering was you wanted to learn surfing and hence you
Yeah.
decided to volunteer. But where can people find such opportunities? Like, to be honest, I haven't come across any such opportunities anywhere, or maybe I might have missed it. But if someone wants to volunteer or find such opportunities, should they directly reach out to the surf club or something, or how is it?
So the way I got it was when I had gone there earlier. They just, told us that, hey, we are looking for volunteers. If any of you are interested, then you can join us. So because they also want to have people
Hmm.
who have a little bit of surfing experience, because then we can answer questions. uh, so that is one way to get these things. Other than that, you can just reach out to hostels directly. Let's say if you want to go to beer, you can
Hmm.
try reaching out to different hostels in beer and ask them that, hey, I'm looking for a volunteering opportunity. That Other than that, they also post it on their social media.
Social media.
Yeah, I also share it on my Instagram and Twitter when I find a nice opportunity, so that if anyone's interested, they can take it up. And there is this platform called Volunteer Yatra. So
Okay.
I've not used it myself, but I've met people who've used it. You can register on it, and it charges you around 2,000 per year. And their hostels, their places, they list out their openings there, and then you as a volunteer, you can apply to them.
Okay, so volunteer yatra is one such way, or maybe Instagram, or maybe when you go to such place, you can directly ask the coordinator or whoever it is.
Yeah, and also it becomes like a if you like I know certain people
Hmm.
who've been traveling for a few years and they're only volunteering. So we
Okay.
maybe taken a break from work and they go to a hostel. Like, let's say if it's mountain season, if it's summer, so people there would need volunteers, and then they would have friends in other places who also run these hostels and stuff, and they
Hmm.
can recommend you to those places and you can volunteer there.
Sounds fascinating, though I haven't thought of it. But yeah, when I was going through your profile, I came across this, and it sounds fascinating. As I said, I want to do surfing since a long time. Though I am not sure about the volunteering part, but I'll definitely go once for surfing. And now coming to one another thing that you did was you completed the Annapurna Base Camp trek recently without a guide, which sounds like incredibly challenging to me. How do you manage the trek on your own? Like, did you carry all the essentials, tent, food, and first aid and everything by yourself? And what advice would you give to someone interested in taking a trek without a guide?
So, hiking in India is very different than hiking in Nepal, because in Nepal, I think Nepal's economy run on hiking, because on
Okay.
tourism, because they don't have a lot of things in their country.
Hmm.
So it's all tourism, and the way they have developed their infrastructure is beautiful. Like in India, if you go for a hike in let's say in Himachal or Uttarakhand, you would have to, if it's like a multi-day hike, right? You would have to carry your own equipment, including food and cooking
Yeah.
items and everything, sleeping bag, tent, or you go with a travel company. So the trekking company would have their tents set up there. They would have a cook. They would have everything sorted.
Yeah.
So in India, these are the two ways to do it. But in Nepal, it's very different. Every 2 or 3 hours, on the Annapurna Base Camp trail, every 2 or 3 hours, there was a small village. So the village will have these places. They're called tea houses. So it's
Okay.
basically like a homestay sort of a setting, and they have nice, comfy beds. And it's not like sleeping bags. It's like a proper bed.
Okay.
So they have those, and they have a proper kitchen, and they also have proper restrooms. They also have hot showers, and they also um, sell snacks and utility items, basically.
So it's the trade is commercialized, I would say, to
Yeah,
an extent that you have a lot of tea stalls or tea houses.
yeah,
So you didn't stay in a tent or a camp. You had all of these facilities. You just had to uh, hike or summit, and when you wanted, you could stay at whichever place you want and then start again. Is
yeah.
that how it works?
Basically, I did not take a porter. Also, I carried my own things, and I tried to pack very light, but since it was like a 7 day trek, it was still quite a lot. And I think my backpack must have been around 8
8
to
to
10
9.
kgs, something like
Same.
that.
Even my backpack was 8 to 9 kgs when I went.
Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely challenging because it's a difficult trek, moderate to difficult trek. But since there was this comfort sort of setting, it was
Hmm.
nice. Like there was one day where we decided. So I met this other girl in my hostel, and even she wanted to go for the trek. And she also did not want to do it with a trekking company. I also did not want to do it with a trekking company. So we just decided that we would do it together. So there was one day where we decided that we would reach this particular village, but we were really tired, so we stopped at one village before that. So we were quite flexible that way, and since we had that comfort of choosing where to stay,
Hmm.
it was fine.
So is it easy to navigate the trail by yourself? Are like the boards and everything have been at place? Ki this is where you need to go, or is it difficult to navigate the trails as
We got lost once.
well? Uh,
And it was funny because the signboard was at the bottom, uh,
okay.
and it had fallen down. So we skipped it, and when we did the trek, it was pre-monsoon showers had sort of started, so there was no one on the trail on that particular day,
Hmm.
the route that we were taking. So yeah, we just went ahead, and then we were like, maybe this is not right, but then we were not so sure. But then we met a local person, and we asked him. Uh, so yeah, I think we must have lost half an hour, but yeah, it was fine. Other than that, the route is well marked, and from second day onwards, we saw more people on the trail. So it was also like a nice support system. When there are more
Hmm.
people on the trail, you can talk to them, and you keep
Yeah.
seeing the same people, and you give each other
Yeah, I
motivation.
have because there's the same trail. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I was especially curious to know about that part. How do you manage? I got to know for the first time that this is how the trekking works in Nepal. I didn't know that it's quite different from India.
yeah,
I would say. But coming to the end of the podcast, like I have a couple of last questions, going a bit off track. So you have been traveling since so many years. You have your own company where you plan trips. You travel solo. But society has often set a narrative for how life should progress, career, family, etc. And how do you navigate societal expectations to pursue a part of continuous travel and entrepreneurship. So, are there any challenges, or how do you sort of
I think
do that?
for me, society, the definition of society has changed now, because now I'm surrounded with people who are doing these things. Like I have friends who are running different hostels in different places. Uh, and they are like, oh hey, yeah, you're doing good, this is good, and even they are doing different things, right? So that is one thing. Other than that, my parents are quite chill. Like
Okay.
my parents are actually very proud of me. Like my mom, she brags about me to her friends that, hey, you know what, my daughter is surfing in this, she's surfing in Varkala now, she's in Indonesia, and I think she's very proud of me. Um, and I don't understand what society means, because I think for me it's just, I've never been that person who would care about what other people are thinking. My friends are very supportive. I think the problem would just be the older people, because they would not
Mm.
understand this mindset,
Yeah.
right? Like people of our age, they really appreciate all these things. So, yeah, I mean, I don't listen to
Yeah.
anyone. For
It,
me, it's like I am going to do this, and if you have any problem, you can let me know, and I do it.
no, the best part is that your parents are supportive, so that really helps a lot. That you don't need to question any, or you are not answerable to anyone else apart from your parents, and when your parents are proud. So that's definitely a great place to be in, I would say. And coming to the last question, what's one belief or perspective that you held before you started traveling that has completely changed through your experience on the road? What's one belief that you have?
Um, I think we should always uh, take everything with an open mind. Like when I was going to Goa for the first time, it was very, I mean, everyone was like, yeah, Goa is amazing, Goa is amazing. And I went with that mindset and it was amazing. But then when I was going to Himachal, I thought that Himachal is gonna be very boring. Like, what's there to do in Himachal, right? It's gonna be
Mm,
like this slow life, old people, things like that.
yeah.
But then when I went there, I was completely blown. Like it was just so there were so many things, there was so much. I just think that you should always have an open mind and say yes to experiences, because I've been that person who has said no to a lot of things, because I thought that, yeah, you know what, I'm not interested, this is gonna be lame. But I think everything you should try at least once.
So, like when you actually visit that place or experience that, then you actually get to know that, yeah, is it actually worth it or it is not worth it, or you actually like it or not. Just to not make assumptions beforehand on the
Yeah,
basis of someone else's experience or someone else's recommendation. So,
yeah,
okay, that's interesting. And one last thing that since you travel solo, a lot of people want to travel solo, even including me, but we often get a setback when we think of the where to stay, where to find budget-friendly hotels, and how to plan the activities, which places to go. So, is there any tips or any recommendations that you use, or any framework for solo travelers that this is how you ideally plan a trip or plan your adventure for solo travel, which can make it easy for everyone else as well.
for me, I don't like to plan when I'm traveling by myself. If I'm taking a group, then I have to plan, but otherwise I don't plan. What I do is I book a place to stay for first 2 nights, and then I figure out things on the go. So the place where I stay for first 2 nights is also usually a recommendation by another
Okay.
traveler, because now that I've been traveling for so long, I keep meeting
Mm.
so many new people, and whenever I'm going to a new destination, 99% of the times I know that I'll know someone who's been there before and whose recommendation I can trust. So I just ask that person. I don't like to do a lot of research. I ask that person that, hey, you know what, tell me where to stay. And they tell me a place, and I book that place for first 2 nights. And then within first night is usually you reach there, you're tired, you reach by evening. Then next
Mm.
day I meet people, I get recommendations from them. So I have a certain set of activities planned, like let's say when I was going to Nepal, I knew that I want to do one trek, but I wasn't sure which trek I should be doing and which trek my body can support, basically. So I thought I would do like a 3 or 4 day trek, and it would be somewhere around Pokhara. That was what I knew. So I landed in Kathmandu. I had a stay booked for 2 nights, and during that time, I met on my second day, I met people who were also trekking guides in Nepal. So they told
Okay.
me that, hey, you know what, you can do ABC. Like, they said that I can do it. And I was like, okay. And Kathmandu was fun. So I ended up staying for 2 more days. And then I went to Pokhara. And I was chilling in Pokhara for a few days. Then I met this girl who wanted to do the trek. And she was like, yeah, let's start tomorrow. And I was like, let's start tomorrow. And then the next day we started the trek. So I am able to do these things without so much planning is because I don't have a job. Like I don't have
Mm.
to report to work from Monday to Friday. So that way I have flexibility now. But before this, when I was a digital nomad, uh, I would, let's say if I'm going to a village in Himachal, I would go there on the weekend. Like let's say I arrive there on Saturday, then Saturday Sunday I would chill, get to know the place and everything. Then Monday to Friday, if the place where I'm staying is not comfortable enough for working, then on the week over the weekend I would find a nice place to stay. So then Monday to Friday I would stay at the same place, work from there, and then the next weekend maybe I would move to a different place, like a different village. Or yeah, so that's how I go about it. And I feel if you plan too much, then there's a lot of pressure. Like let's say you've planned that I'm gonna go for this particular thingy on this day, but now the weather is bad and you can't do that, then somehow you it leads to disappointment. But if you keep things flexible, like you know
Mm.
that, "Hey, okay, I'm going here, I want to do these few activities, I'll do them." Just I think you should not plan every single detail unless it's like a, at least if you're traveling in India, it's not needed, I think so.
So, like, usually the unplanned and spontaneous trips can be the most memorable ones. So you embrace spontaneity over planning. So
Yeah.
I like that. And that's it. Thank you so much, Soumya, for coming on the podcast. It means a lot. And I'm sure the listeners and me, I also got a lot to learn from your journey. And I hope you will keep inspiring a lot of other solo travelers. And I'll definitely get in touch for my next solo travel with Modern Nomads.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. I mean, it was really uh nice to share my journey like this. And yeah, I hope more people get to experience the real travel.
No, no, definitely they will. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.